Welcome to Trek Online. My name's Gordon, and as you can see, I'm all alone this week. I'm managing this by myself. I'm going to attempt to do each segment by myself without my co-host Daniel, without Professor Crazy Crackers, because this week Professor Crazy Crackers is teaching a class and Daniel decided to enroll in it. So I'm all alone this week, and hopefully they're both back next week. We'll see. Depends how long this course goes for. I did hear it was an intensive course, so they're going to try and cram as much information in as possible. I'm not entirely sure what course he's studying. Last week we did discuss that he's now a professor of nuts, so it could be a course about nuts. Who knows? Maybe he'll come back with some insight about some different kinds of nuts. Anyway, now, this week I am filling in for Heather while she's off on maternity leave. She's been off for the last about 5 months, and she'll be off for the next 7 while I continue to fill in for her. And it's been a grand experience. We've made a lot of tweaks here and there, little changes to make it a better viewing experience for you out there in the audience. And we've been having a grand time. We always have a great laugh when we're editing and when we're just re-watching the footage because it's just so much fun. All right, so now I'm going to pass it over to Stan Fran, the weatherman. He's here in the studio today, no issues, so over to Stan Fran, the weatherman.
Hi, I'm Stan Fran, the weatherman, and I'm going to do the weather once again. As you can see, I found this nifty hat in the Lost and Found at work here, and it's pretty nifty. So the weather today, it was snowing, but it seems that all the snow has evaporated. We got blue skies again, but today it is windy. That's the difference. It is windy. It looks like a nice day to go for a walk once again, but I will not be going outside because that is dangerous to my health. Back over to you guys.
Thanks, Stan Fran. That's some good weather you got out there. We now will be rolling into the next segment of our night, which, according to my doc hit here, it says Professor Crazy Crackers, but we're going to see if I can do some science. Maybe. We'll see. All right, we'll pass it over to me in the science room. All right. We're going to attempt a science experiment today because Professor Crazy Crackers is not here. He's out teaching a course. So I'm going to do my best to not mess this up and get it right. I have his assistant, Terry the Tornado, here. He's going to help me as much as possible. He's set this up for me. The ingredients that we need for this experiment are just water and food coloring. Super simple, and they think that I can handle this experiment as is. So without further ado, we're just going to jump straight into things. I think we have all the ingredients right here on the table. We do have a backup science experiment over here just in case something does go haywire. Who knows? It's possible. So first thing you're going to do is just start by adding water to the bowl. Super simple. it appears I've done something wrong, as it looks like the water has caught fire, and the room is quickly filling with smoke. So I will be right back with my other experiment. Alright, so as you can see, things are very smoky in here. I messed up the first experiment, which was supposed to be foolproof, but here we are. The next experiment is one that we've shown before, involving momentum and some plastic bead necklaces. So here we go. The easiest thing to do, get a little bucket, get a bunch of these plastic necklaces. You can get like 10 for $1 at the dollar store. It's super fun. And then you just tie the ends together, and it's as easy as just pulling down rapidly, and all of the beads jump straight out of the bucket. So take a look. Science. Peace. All right, thanks, Gordon. That was some a good attempt at science. That's all we can say about that. It was a good attempt. We're going to now discuss the Pine Car Derby, and upon further discussion with some people, I have decided to push back the race date as well due to the restrictions on COVID. I wouldn't be able to bring in my panel of judges, so we're going to wait until some of those restrictions are lifted and we can actually have those people come in and do the judging here at the church. I'm looking forward to being able to do that, but we're going to push the date back. We'll have a new tentative date as of the end of February to get your cars submitted, and then we'll have the races in March, hopefully. We'll keep you posted, but the goal is to have the races in March, pending what happens with COVID-19. So you have an extra month to keep working on those cars, make them look amazing. You have two ways of potentially winning, being the fastest car down the track. I'm with my car currently, it probably won't be the fastest. I painted the wheels with some glow-in-the-dark paint to make it look a little cooler, but I feel like it's gonna make the wheels a little lumpy and not as smooth, so that's an error on my part. But the other way you can win is having the coolest looking car, which is more the category I guess I'm going for, having the coolest looking car. And yeah, so once we have our panel of judges able to come into the church to do the judging, we will have those winners determined and figure out all of those details there. Now, I would show you my car. It is currently drying, so potentially I will have a freeze frame of my car after this for you guys to just see where I'm at with my painting and such. All right. Now, it looks like we are rolling into music, so get up on your feet and get ready to sing and dance and have some fun with the music. Enjoy.
Trust in God alone, we will stand L-O-V-E. Hey.
Find a way to lend some help. Love your neighbor as yourself. Spend your time on someone else.
Yeah, come on.
Find a way to lend some help. Love your neighbor as yourself. Spend your time on someone else. L-O-V-E. God's love is like no other. L-O-V-E. Share it with one another. Come on, everyone. Reach out and love someone. L-O-V-E. We're gonna love each other.
Yeah.
Find a way to show some grace. Help your neighbor run the race. Put yourself in second place. Find a way to show some grace. Help your neighbor run the race. Put yourself in second place. L-O-V-E. God's love is like no other. L-O-V-E. Share it with one another. Come on, everyone. Reach out and love someone. L-O-V-E. We're gonna love each other.
Yeah. God loved us from the very start, and I got the love in my beating heart. And spread that love all across the earth, and tell everybody what His love is worth. Come on, so let God hear the praise from us. Yeah, and love people like the Savior does. Hey. And you ain't never gonna be the same when you L-O-V-E in Jesus' name. Yeah.
God's love is like no other.
Hey, hey.
We're gonna love each other. Come on, everyone. Reach out and love someone. We're gonna love each other. God's love is like no other. We're gonna love each other. Reach out and love someone. We're gonna love each other.
All right, that was some great singing and dancing out there, guys. I could hear you from my house, and it was amazing. So now we're going to roll into the next segment of our night, which is games/crafts with Gord. So we'll pass it over to him and see what he's doing tonight. Over to Gord. All right, welcome to Crafty Games with Gord. Today we're going to be trying something different where you guys don't get to see my face, but you get to see my hands so you can see the artwork as it's being done. Hopefully this is a fun game for you guys at home. I've played this one before and it's lots of fun. So we're just going to jump straight into it. So today's game is called Art Gallery. Now, the first thing you need to do is pick one person to be the drawer to start out. You can all take turns over time, but what you're going to want to do right off the bat is pick one person to start drawing. And that person is going to take a piece of paper, a writing utensil, and they're going to draw picture frames all over their piece of paper. And you want 10 picture frames in total. So I'm just going to take a minute here and draw my picture frames. Alright, so once you have your 10 picture frames drawn, you can move on to the next step. And that is picking a theme for your art gallery. You can pick anything. The goal of the game is to get your opponents to guess your theme correctly, but you want them to guess it correctly after you've completed as many pictures as possible. So the way that the point system works is you get 10 points if your opponents guess your theme correctly. The way that you accumulate more points is by however many pictures you've added to your gallery and completed. So for example, if I completed 5 pictures out of the full 10, and they guessed it correctly as I was drawing the 5th, I would get 5 bonus points and the 10 points for them guessing it correctly. So I'd get 15 points in total. A perfect score is them guessing it after you've completed your entire gallery. You got the full 10 points for completing your gallery and the 10 points for them guessing it. But if they don't guess it, you don't get that bonus 10 points. Now the person who does guess it correctly, they score themselves 5 points. So you want to guess your opponent's art, and you want to guess it quickly so that they don't accumulate too many points ahead of you. So we'll put those point listings after we're done explaining the full game and after I've done this. But 10 points for them guessing it correctly, 1 point per picture that you've worked on, and 5 points for the person that gets the correct answer. Now, another rule is you have to complete a picture once you start it. You can't start drawing something in one box and then move to another box and start drawing. You have to complete the picture in one box before moving on to the next. So the easiest thing to do is pick your theme and pick one thing that relates to that theme. So over here, I'm going to draw a canoe paddle. All right, so there's my first picture. It's a canoe paddle. You don't have to tell them what it is. That may actually help them if you do tell them what it is, but make it so that they can guess it. You want them to guess it, but you want to also complete as many as you've done. So now that I've completed my one picture, I can move on to my next drawing, and you can pick wherever you want on the board. It doesn't have to be in any order at all, and you just keep going. So I'm going to put this here. And we'll just imagine that that is perfectly shaded in. But I'm going to go on and continue all of my drawings. And what I want you guys to do is try and guess what I am drawing, what my theme is, and keep track of how many pictures I got before you guessed it correctly. And yeah, good luck. And yeah, I'll put the answer in next week's video. Alright, I have completed my drawings. This is something that was important to me growing up and very foundational for who I am as a Christian today. And yeah, let me know if you guys can guess the theme of what these pictures represent. I'm going to quickly go through what each drawing was, and then if you can guess the theme, let me know. So you've got a canoe paddle, the Bible, a cross. This is something called the Plank of Doom, campfire, a cabin, archery, canoeing, basketball, and singing. Good luck, have fun, pick a theme, draw your 10 pictures, and yeah, have fun with this game, guys. Thanks, Gord. That was a very interesting craft and or game. Yes. So we're gonna just roll right into the next segment of the night, which is Bible time. So without further ado, we're gonna pass it over to me on Bible time. Over to me. All right, guys, welcome to Bible time today. We're going to continue on with our series on the armor of God. And in battles, soldiers wear armor to protect themselves. But we're not in a war against people. The Bible says we're in a war against unseen powers of evil. But don't worry, we're on the winning side, and that's God's side. We have His special armor to put on, including the body armor of righteousness, or the chest plate of righteousness. So this kind of body armor goes on like a shirt to protect your heart and organs. Okay, so I am a huge Star Wars fan, and I love anything there is to do with Star Wars, and the most recent trilogy of movies that came out has caused a lot of controversy amongst the Star Wars fandom, and it's hard to side with which side I want to go with. So when I went to go see Episode 8, there were times where I was disappointed. It was a good, solid movie, but I felt like it was lacking something Star Wars-y. Like it didn't feel like a true Star Wars movie, and I was really disappointed. Now I want you guys to take a moment and discuss, what are some movies that you thought was going to be amazing, and then you ended up being disappointed by it? Take a moment and discuss. What was a movie that you thought was going to be amazing, and then when you actually saw it, you were disappointed by it? So, in today's Bible story, we're going to find people that looked really good, but on the inside, it turned out that their hearts were more focused on themselves than what God wanted for them. Now, let's see what happened in the Bible, which is God's special book for us. And we're going to look at the ways that God shows us His righteousness. So before we get there, we're going to watch a little video. So today we're going to be learning that we fight evil with righteousness. And I want you to think, what does that mean to you? Fighting evil with righteousness. Now, if you're not quite sure what it means to fight evil with righteousness, you're not alone. Let's join our friend Andy in this video to see what he thinks it means.
Hello and welcome to another awesome Andy show. Before we begin, I would like to apologize to everyone who built my rocket-powered jetpack. I had no way of knowing that you wouldn't be able to get back down. Hope the Wi-Fi is good though. Now today I want to show you how to build something very, very important. I learned at church today that we are in a battle. But it's a battle with an unseen world. You can't see it happening. But you need to be ready. Shh. Now, in order to battle these no-see-ums, the Bible tells us that we need some armor. Not just any type of armor, righteous armor. Apparently, these no-see-ums can't get you if you have this on. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna build some righteous armor. Let's do this!
1, 2, 3, 4.
When building righteous armor, one should always put righteousness on the righteous armor. This is the most important step. Ugh. It's a little heavy. Righteousness.
Andy, what are you doing now?
Genesis! Oh, I'm so glad you're here. But shh, keep your voice down. I don't want them to know that we're here.
Andy, what are you talking about?
The unseen army. I'm not ready yet. Here, help me get this body armor on.
Okay, but I don't see why.
Here, I'll explain everything after I get this armor on so that I'm protected from the unseen army.
Wow, this is so heavy.
Yeah, it's like 200 billion pounds. Ugh. All right, almost there. It's a little pokey, but I'll fix that later. Woo! Not bad for my first try, but it's a little heavy. Like, really heavy. Oh, really heavy.
Andy, are you okay?
Yeah, I think so, but I think my armor's a bit too heavy. It's okay. I can fix it. Who knew righteousness was so heavy, am I right?
Andy, I think you have this all wrong. The Bible isn't talking about big, heavy armor. The body armor of righteousness comes from God. It means covering our hearts in His goodness. This unseen army is real, and the only way to protect yourself is to wear the armor of God. It's not real armor you can wear. It's about your heart.
Woo! I gotta say, Genesis, that makes a lot more sense. Would not be fun wearing that around all day.
No, it would not.
I wonder what I could do with this now. Maybe a dog bowl, maybe a sled. Oh! It's a nice vase for my fake flowers. Or you know what? I know what we're gonna do.
Andy, I think I have to go right now, okay? Please be careful. Maybe stay away from the blowtorch. Remember what happened to your old workshop?
All right, I will, Genesis. Tune in next time when I show you what to do with 287 pounds of scrap metal. Righteous scrap metal. Ooh, I like it.
So in this video, Andy's friend Genesis came in and said that putting on the body armor of righteousness means covering our hearts in God's goodness. How do we go about doing that? Luckily, we don't have to wear heavy armor around like Andy tried to. We fight evil with righteousness when we ask God to shine His goodness through our hearts. So, we're in this battle against evil. And I want you to listen to this scripture. And we're going to turn to Ephesians chapter 6. Now, Ephesians is in the New Testament. It's a little bit over halfway into the New Testament. Right after the book of Galatians, we find Ephesians. And we're going to read chapter 6, We're going to start at verse 10 and read to verse 12. Finally, be strengthened by the Lord and by his vast strength. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the tactics of the devil. For our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the world powers of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavens. So today we are learning that we fight evil with righteousness. And some people think of righteousness as doing the right thing. But we're going to explore how it goes beyond doing that. So first, I want you to fill in the blank for this sentence. You should never blank at church. All right? Can be anything. You should never blank at church. Fill in that blank. And discuss that for a minute. Now I want you to think about this. Do you ever do that thing outside of church? And if someone doesn't do the bad thing at church, but does it outside of church, does that mean that that person is righteous when they're at church? Take a minute and discuss. If you don't do the bad thing while you're at church, but you do the bad thing when you're not at church, are you still righteous? Now, a lot of people out there might behave one way at church, but differently outside of church. And looking at the way that they behave at church, you might consider them righteous. But let's go to the heart of righteousness. And to explore righteousness, we're going to look at some guys in the Bible who acted really, really righteous or perfect. And they were the religious leaders of the time, and everyone looked at them as examples of how to live the right way. And let's see what they did to be righteous. So, if you were to look through Scripture and find descriptions of the Pharisees, you would find that they wore Bible verses in boxes on their arms, kind of like a bracelet. And that seems like a good thing to do. You got to keep your scriptures with you. I keep one verse with me to remind me that love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. It's something that sticks with me, just love. But so them carrying these bracelets with scriptures on them, it's a very good thing to do. They also went on to other countries to tell people about God. That seems like a pretty good thing to do. They made promises that people could count on them to keep. They gave money, and overall their lives looked clean and pure. It seems like all the things that I just listed were good things to do. But let's see what Jesus thought about these wonderful things that they did and whether they were the most righteous guys around. And for that, we're going to turn to the book of Matthew. Matthew is the very first book in the New Testament. All right, so we're going to read Matthew chapter 23, and we're going to read the first few verses here, up to verse 5. Then Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples. The scribes and the Pharisees are seated in the chair of Moses. Therefore, do whatever they tell you and observe it. But don't do what they do, because they don't practice what they teach. They tie up heavy loads that are hard to carry and put them on people's shoulders, but they themselves aren't willing to lift a finger to move them. They do everything to be observed by others. They enlarge their phylacteries and lengthen their tassels. The next verse we're going to read is a little bit further on, verse 15. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You travel over land and sea to make one proselyte, And when he becomes one, you make him twice as fit for hell as you are. And our next verse we're going to look at is verse 23. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites! You pay a tenth of mint, dill, and cumin, yet you have neglected the more important matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faith. These things should have been done without neglecting the others. Blind guides, you strain out a gnat, yet gulp down a camel. Then we're going to read all the way to verse 33 here. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup, so the outside of it may also be clean. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which appear to be beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of dead men's bones and impurity. In the same way, on the outside, you seem righteous to people, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You build the tombs of the prophets and decorate the monuments of the righteous. And you say, if we have lived in the days of our father, we wouldn't have taken part with them in shedding the prophets' bloods. You therefore testify against yourself that you are the sons of those who murdered the prophet. Fill up, then, the measures of your father's sins. Snakes, broods of vipers, how can you escape being condemned to hell? So, it sounds very harsh here. Jesus does not sound too impressed with the Pharisees and their righteousness. How would you describe Jesus' words to the religious leaders? And why do you think he talked like that about them? Take a minute and discuss. How would you describe Jesus' words to the religious leaders? And why do you think he talked like that? So Jesus knew their hearts and knew everything that they did was all for show. They were trying to be righteous on their own to impress other people. But we can't be righteous without Jesus. When we fight evil with righteousness, it's about our hearts tuning into God's righteousness. It's not about doing things that impress other people. With the Pharisees in mind, think back to our original question that I started with. If you do the right thing only when you're at church, are you righteous at church? Take a minute and discuss. With the Pharisees in mind, think back to that original question. If you do the right thing only when you're at church, are you righteous at church? So Jesus called the Pharisees hypocrites and whitewashed tombs. Now, a hypocrite is a pretender, somebody that tells you to do something and doesn't do it themselves. The Pharisees looked nice and perfect on the outside, but they were dead and rotten on the inside. If your actions look nice, but your heart isn't turning to Jesus for righteousness, you can't fight evil with your righteousness. It'd be like going into battle with aluminum foil on instead of metal for your body armor. And that kind of armor can be very easily defeated. So when we fight evil with righteousness, we wear God's body armor. And here's what that can look like. We're going to go back and read chapter 23, verses 3 to 4 here. Therefore, do whatever they tell you and observe it, but don't do what they do because they don't practice what they teach. They tie up heavy loads that are hard to carry and put them on people's shoulders, but they themselves aren't willing to lift a finger to move them. Now, this isn't talking about them lifting actual weights or anything like that. This is talking about the religious rules that they were dropping on these people. Jesus is telling them not to crush the people with the religious demands. Now, We fight evil with God's righteousness so that we don't demand that people should be perfect on their own. The next one comes to us in verses 11 to 12. The greatest among you will be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. So Jesus said to be kind and do things for others, to humble yourself, put others' needs above your own. Now, over the Christmas break, my friend Daniel went and volunteered with the Salvation Army, and he helped serve food and help those who needed assistance. He put the needs of other people above his own. So, we fight evil with God's righteousness when we act like servants, when we serve others and we serve God. The next one comes to us in verse 23 here. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You pay a tenth of mint, dill, and cumin, yet you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. These things should have been done without neglecting the others. Now the Pharisees ignored justice, mercy, and faith. Why do you think those are important? Take a minute and discuss. Why do you think justice, mercy, and faith are important? So the Pharisees kind of kept score on the right things that they did. They liked things that you could measure, like how many Bible verses you could wear, or how much money that you gave. They could show off how great they were, but they missed out on the more important but less showy things. We fight evil with righteousness when we show justice, mercy, and faith in Jesus. Now, I want you to imagine I hand you a fancy decorative cup. The only cup I have around here is a Tim Hortons cup. So imagine this was like solid gold and decorative. But when you look inside, it was filled with the most disgusting things you can think of. It was full of snot and dirt and mud. And then I handed it to you and asked you to take a drink from it. We'd all be pretty grossed out by a cup that's like that. A cup that's dirty on the inside. And it really doesn't matter how it looks on the outside. The inside is what counts. And in the same way, our hearts are far more important to God than what our actions make us look like on the outside. That's what Jesus had to say. So we go back to Scripture and read verses 26 to 28 here. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup, so the outside of it may also become clean. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which appear beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of dead men's bones and every impurity. In the same way, on the outside, you seem righteous to people, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Jesus said that on the outside, the Pharisees looked righteous, but on the inside, their hearts were filled with hypocrisy and lawlessness. They were like a clean cup on the outside, but with that dirty, moldy, snotty stuff on the inside. We fight evil with righteousness by having hearts that are turned to God. Now, most importantly, we need to remember that our righteousness doesn't come from our own strength or stuff that we do. That's where the Pharisees get it all wrong. We fight evil with righteousness when we rely on Jesus for our righteousness. And we turn back to Ephesians chapter 6. We're going to read verse 14 to find where the verse that we're talking about today is, where the breastplate of righteousness is. So stand, therefore, with the truth like a belt around your waist. That's what we covered last week. And righteousness like armor on your chest. We looked at some very tough stuff that Jesus said today. And he said these things to the Pharisees. Now, maybe you didn't think that Jesus would say something so harsh, but he knew that the Pharisees' hearts were all about themselves and not about God. That not only made him mad, but it also broke his heart. And listen to what he said after he put them in their place. We go back to Matthew chapter 23, verses 37 to 38. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, she who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her, how often I wanted to gather your children together as hens gather her chicks under her wings. Yet you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will never see me again until you say, he who comes in the name of the Lord is the blessed one. Jesus was sad because he wanted to gather and protect his people, but they wouldn't let him. They wanted to do things their own way, not his, and it cost them everything. So I want you to consider this question. I'm going to leave you with a pondering question. Will you let Jesus gather you and give you his righteousness? Will you let Jesus pull you close to him, gather you up and protect you, and give you the righteousness that you need? We're going to close now in prayer. And, let's take a moment to pray. Hey, God, thank you for all that you do for us. It's amazing just reflecting on the gifts that you always give us and the blessings that you show us. God, I pray that as we go forward this week, that we reflect on the lives of the Pharisees and learn from their mistakes. That we want our hearts to be turned to you, and that not just our actions on the outside are what are good, but everything inside of us spills out and becomes good. God, I pray that you continue to strengthen us and guide us with wisdom every day as we live in this weird world of separation. And God, I pray that you continue to encourage us and give us that strength to keep going. God, I pray that as you guide us every day, we follow you diligently, and that you continue to give us the strength to get through. Praise in your name. Amen. All right, so that wraps up our Bible time today. I hope you guys learned lots about the Pharisees and take that to heart, and just remember that we need our righteousness from God, and he'll give it to us so long as we follow him. And we're going to pass it back over to the newsroom and wrap up with some bloopers. All right, see you guys. Thanks, Gordon, for that awesome Bible time. We'll keep coming back each week to dive into the armor of God. It's one of my favorite series in the Bible, and it's so enjoyable just to discuss the importance of the spiritual warfare and being ready for the attacks to come. But yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing that series. Now, tonight, we're wrapping it up. We're closing off with our bloopers as per usual. Thank you for coming out. We'll see you next week, and have a great week. See you guys. Thanks, Gord. That was some... Looking forward to diving deeper into that each week, and yeah. Lonely, I am so lonely. I have nobody to help me with this show. Test, test. All right, let's get it going here. Tim Hortons, not a paid sponsor. Body armor goes on. This kind of body armor goes on like a shirt. I once now scrap that. Take a minute to discuss. No, we're gonna cut that question. We don't need it. I feel like they cited the wrong verse there. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. And listen what this new camera makes my forehead shine. My goodness. Tim Hortons.